Hello, this is Blue Joe Saunders, WBO middleweight champion of the world. Subscribe to Sport and Icons to stay in touch with all the top news. God bless you all.
Now, I know a lot of you like these cheeky Deontay Wilder videos where I expose the truth and show how much of an imbecile him and his toxic fan base are. It's too easy, to be honest with you, because they just keep on giving me all the receipts for me to make paper airplanes and throw back at them. But Tyson Fury, he was talking about the many excuses that Deontay Wilder's made, etc., etc. But of course, there is another one, if you guys go back to around the first fight, where Deontay Wilder, he felt like he didn't know what to do in that fight. He was a little bit confused, all that kind of stuff. And he said that he thought that Tyson Fury put a Gypsy Spell on him. I think a lot of people have forgotten about that one. Anyway, Tyson Fury, he spoke about the Gypsy Spell that he apparently put on Deontay Wilder for the first fight. But he says, that's not really it. It's just the fact that I've got into his head, which I have done videos on before. The psychological breakdown of Deontay Wilder, where Tyson Fury just absolutely outdone him from the moment Deontay Wilder made that mistake and cherry-picked Tyson Fury the first time round. Anyway, this is what Tyson Fury had to say. When Joe Rogan interviewed Deontay Wilder on his podcast after our first fight, Wilder said he thought I put some kind of gypsy spell on him. As far as I know, I don't possess much in the way of spells, though my Irish grandmother was a fortune teller. What's clear from the second fight is that I had got into his head and shook his self-confidence by repeatedly telling him I was going to drop him in the second round. I planted that seed in his mind and uttered it so frequently in the run-up to the fight, he got spooked and started believing it himself. So there you go. Now, does he make any kind of sense in that? Well, of course he does, because we've seen Deontay Wilder. He's not the most mentally strong person in the world. It doesn't take too much to break him. He's a very emotional person, and there's nothing wrong with being an emotional person. It's part of your DNA. It's part of how you're brought up. It is what it is, okay? You can put it down to passion and that as well. So it's not a flaw as such. It's just part of Deontay Wilder's makeup. But he's always been very paranoid, in the sense of he always wants people to believe that he's something that he isn't. He wanted people to look on him the same way that they used to do with, say, Mike Tyson, which is why he himself says, I'm the baddest man on the planet. I'm the most feared heavyweight in the history of the heavyweight division. No. If people really thought that, people would say it to the point where you wouldn't need to say it. I hope that makes sense. Wilder, he's always been quite fragile between the years, because the amount of ludicrous things that he said, you know, I want a body on my resume, I want to be pregnant, I possess this power that's probably given to me from my ancestors and things like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. What, because he punches hard? That's to do with your shoulder muscles. That's got nothing to do with ancestry power. That's all that is. But it's just little things like that. And of course, his complete meltdown now since he lost. It's not just one excuse, but it's a whole shopping list of excuses. It's madness. Now, Tyson Fury getting into the mind of Deontay Wilder. Well, we can go back to the first fight and see that one in the press conferences, which were happening, was it London, New York, and Los Angeles, I believe, wasn't it? And in all of those, Tyson Fury mentally broke Wilder. You've seen Wilder, even before them, having the round table with Tyson Fury, with John Rawling, where he's going, there's only one Deontay Wilder, because Tyson Fury broke him. He broke him in that moment. Wilder didn't know how to handle fame. He doesn't know how to handle pressure. He doesn't know how to handle it when somebody is verbally destroying him. He's very easy to get into the mind. That's why he buys into the whole, yes, you are the most powerful man in the history of the heavyweight division. Nobody hits harder than you, and all this kind of stuff, because he's easily mentally broken. And a lot of his fan base are of that very same ilk. They're weak-minded. They're not leaders. That's why they hang around in packs. That's why they all support each other and give each other shout-outs and that. Me, I'm like a lone wolf. I don't need shout-outs. I don't need other people. These people do to help them grow. Okay? So they are weak-minded. That's why they all perpetuate the same kind of narratives, when logical people can look at all the excuses and the many things that Wilder has done and the missed opportunities of fighting Anthony Joshua undisputed. They don't look at things as a full glass. They look at it as an empty glass. and we have to fill it with excuses to protect Deontay Wilder. That's what they do. They're always in defensive mode of Deontay Wilder rather than truthful mode, because they know that there's enough stupid people in the world to believe them. And it's not that people really believe it, it's that they want to believe it. Go back to one of Deontay Wilder's sayings before, which is, well, I say one of his sayings, he keeps on repeating the same things over and over again. Things like, if you speak it, believe it and receive it. Well, that's just complete nonsense. Just because you say something often enough, and then eventually you start to believe it, it's going to come true. That doesn't work like that. You want anything in life, you've got to actually go out and grab it. That's life. Okay, so he's very, very delusional, much like some of his toxic fan base bootlickers. But what Tyson Fury is saying is absolutely correct. He is correct, because he mentally destroyed him. He was going in on him to the point where Wilder was visibly shaken on multiple times. Start rambling, where his mouth is talking but his brain hasn't kicked in yet, saying the most stupidest of things, because Tyson Fury would say things where he knew he would get a rise out of Deontay Wilder, such as, I am here, I'm a Brit in your country, and more people know me than you. And I proved that because I walked down the street and we recorded it. Do you know Deontay Wilder? No. Do you know who I am? Yeah, you're Tyson Fury. That would really get up the back of Deontay Wilder. And it's just little things like that. You say how Wilder, he's got an absolutely trash resume. He does have a trash resume. He's overrated. He don't like it around the whiskers. He can't take the pressure. He can't take the heat. And again, the rematch, while Fury did tone it down a little bit, because Fox Sports and ESPN, because of all their links with like Disney and what have you, they asked Tyson to calm it down a little bit, not start swearing and going in on Wilder. And while Fury did tone it down a little bit, you guys remember they actually weren't going to have a press conference for the second fight, because Wilder didn't want the press conference. He didn't want to be in the same room as Tyson Fury, because he knew he can't handle Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, as much as he can come out with some stupid things himself, and let's be honest about it, he can't be outspoken. When Tyson Fury gets inside that bubble of just mocking his opponent and going in on his opponent, he just becomes irritable for the opponent. And there's nothing in the world you can do about it. And the more you bite back, the worse he's going to get. And if you leave him to it, he's just going to continue anyway. So there's nothing in the world you can do. So Wilder, he never actually wanted the press conferences to put out the hype, the promotion for their second fight. But eventually he got forced into it. And while Fury was a little bit more subdued than ever, but he was saying things like, round number 2, I want to knock you out in round number 2. The first fight showed me how to beat you. I want to knock you out in round number 2. And while I don't think many people believed he was going to stop him in round number 2, my prediction of round number 7 was correct. But I didn't expect it to be just a onslaught from round number 1, where he just beat up Wilder, where Wilder looked frightened. He looked scared in that ring. And a lot of that wasn't just the fact that Tyson Fury was physical and all over him. It's because he mentally drained him. Tyson Fury is a master of psychology. He is. He really is. And I know that he's had and has still got some mental demons. He does have all that, but that doesn't make him any less smart. Not at all. He does come out with some pretty random crap. He does do that, and he'll be the first one to tell you that he can be very, very bipolar. One day he'll say something, the next day he'll just totally contradict himself. But that doesn't mean he's a stupid person. He knows psychology. He knows how to get in the head of his opponents. He did it with Klitschko. So Wilder, that was a walk in the park for him. So yeah, that certainly contributed. In fact, it was a big part where, again, a lot of fighters will say most of boxing is psychology. That's what it is. And if you don't have it between the ears, like Wilder doesn't, he's not mentally strong. He can verbally come out with certain things to make himself appear, but he's not. You can see that he's not with his actions, with the way that he speaks. He doesn't actually believe it. He says all these things because he wants to believe it, because he wants people to believe that he is of a certain way. But people can see through it. He's a fraud. He's always been a fraud, which is why it's taken him so damn long to step up. And when he finally did, against a fat, flabby, ring-rusty, uncoordinated Tyson Fury, the first time round. Even John Fury said that, even though I got a lot of criticism when I said that back then. And then John Fury said it. Yeah, John, you're right. Yeah, Tyson Fury, it's dangerous for him. Hey, it is what it is. But anyway, he's correct. He just mentally destroyed Deontay Wilder to the point where they're coming out with a whole shopping list of excuses that has never ever been seen in boxing. There's been some pretty horrendous excuses, but these make the ones like David Haye pulling out his toe after the Vladimir Klitschko fight seem like it's just normal behaviour. These ones are far and beyond anything that we've seen before. Not just one or two of them, but a whole multitude of them. You know how bad it is when Tyson Fury beats you up that bad, you've got to go back to the first fight 18 months prior to look for excuses as to why you lost the rematch. That's how bad it got. Anyway, drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all in the next video.